Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to the Medlock Post radio show. This is where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. The views and opinions on the Medlock Post radio show are those of the host and guests. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker.com, its corporations, affiliates, or any other podcast streaming services. And here is your host, Richard G. Medlock.
Still, now Petrov controls. Back to Varlamov. Getting in on the left side. Into the American end. 55 seconds. But Mikhailov has the puck. Mikhailov sweeping in. Out in front. Backhander goes wide. I think Creighton might have got just a piece of it. Mikhailov back out to Billy Legendov. 43 seconds remaining. Morrow gets into the boards. It comes back to center ice. 37 seconds left in the game. Petrov with it. The Americans on top, 4-3. Long shot. Craig able to get a piece of it to sweep it away. 28 seconds. The crowd going insane. Varlamov shooting it into the American end again. Morrow is back there. Now Johnson, 19 seconds. Johnson over to Ramsey. Billy Legendov gets checked by Ramsey. McClanahan is there. The puck is still loose. 11 seconds. You've got 10 seconds. The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Schultz. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the 1980 Olympics hockey semifinal between the United States of America and the USSR, and the USA won 4-3. Yeah, I get emotional. I sit there and watch that. The whole country was going nuts. 1980 anniversary today, February 22nd. It is also the birthday of George Washington, the father of the United States, and it's also the father of someone that has had influence on my life, both George Washington and Lord Robert Baden-Powell, the founder of the Scouting movement. They both have influenced me in duty to God and duty to country. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Medlock Post Radio Show, episode 117 on this February 22nd, 2023. And it is titled Happy Birthday, George Washington, but we're going to talk some about Lord Baden-Powell, too. He influenced many men and women across the world in a very positive way. And as you see, if you were not in scouting and was not associated with that, you will see why his movement just took off. Now, what a great day. George Washington's birthday, Lord Robert Baden-Powell's birthday, and then the celebration of the 1980 Olympic hockey semifinal. It's still today. And this a movie was made. Disney made a movie, Miracle on Ice. And if you've not seen that movie, go to Disney or wherever and watch it. They show actual film from that game. And these were, in those days, they were amateurs and college players. That's back when except for the Russians, their juggernaut of athletes were all state sponsored, and they'd never been beaten up until then. And then America went on to win the gold. Great times to remember, folks. Great history. You young folks, just go watch that. It will give you a chill, and you might even become emotional. John Locke said, "The natural liberty of man is to be free from any superior power on earth and not to be under the authority of man." No, we're under the authority of God. We're under the authority of natural law. Now, ladies and gentlemen, those that listen to episode 116 on Monday, when I informed you about what the Biden administration is doing to take down, to have the globalists take over not only America, but the world. This thing with the World Health Organization and with the North American Union, or the new North America with Mexico and Canada, this is all about globalism taking over the sovereignty of many, many countries. And folks, I want you to know we struck a whole lot of nerves with that program. YouTube, they didn't block the program. They really didn't have, well, I mean, they can block whatever they want, but they blocked the comments. You could not make a comment. Listen to the program on YouTube. They blocked it. Where other shows you could put comments up there. I tried to undo it, but they did it, so I couldn't undo it. Apparently, I was either being attacked, or it was a lot of support for what we brought up. The truth is what we brought up, ladies and gentlemen. The truth. So they did it. Blogspot is my blog. I try to post that show on blog like I do every show. They would not publish it because the picture I put up said, "We are witnessing the most corrupt, most anti-American, and most what was the other thing? Something about how bad the Democrats are. We're witnessing the worst Democrat Party in our lifetime." They wouldn't let it post with that up, so I took that down, and then they let it publish. So it's crazy. Anyway, another thing going on in the year 1632. Yeah, I know, we're just so much to talk about today. In the year 1632, a book was published, Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems. This was written by Galileo, and this was comparing the Copernican and the Ptolemaic systems of whether the Earth orbits the Sun. Oh, so we know how that came out. We found out that the Earth revolves around Karl Marx, right? No, no, it revolves around the Sun. Still does, in the same orbit, at the same Earth tilt. Nothing has changed. The universe is still there. Nothing has changed. They're all in their orbits, same distance from Earth, same orbit. Nothing has changed. and the earth takes care of itself. All right. We are anyway, we're going to have some fun today. All right, George Washington, born in 1732 in Westmoreland, Virginia. Now, not only is he an inspiration to me, but he's also a cousin by marriage. Martha Dandridge, his wife, was a cousin. So, so he's, and of course, he and Martha didn't have children. Martha had children from a previous marriage. But this is from one of his letters written in 1783. Quote, "Nothing can illustrate these observations more forcibly than a recollection of the happy conjuncture of times and circumstances under which our republic assumes its rank among the nations. The foundation of our empire was not laid in the gloomy age of ignorance and superstition, but at an epoch when the rights of mankind were better understood and more clearly defined than at any former period. The researchers of the human mind after social happiness have been carried to a great extent to treasures of knowledge acquired by the labors of philosophers, sages, and legislators through a long succession of years are laid open for our use, and their collected wisdom may be happily applied to the establishment of our forms of government, the free cultivation of letters, the unbounded extension of commerce, the progressive refinement of manners, the growing liberality of sentiment, have had a meliorating influence on mankind and increased the blessings of society. At this auspicious period, the United States came into existence as a nation, and if their citizens should not be completely free and happy, the fault will be entirely their own." He laid it out in one paragraph, the essence of the founding of the country. We studied a great awakening of the rights of man, the Great Awakening, and that's what it was. And then the treasures of knowledge from philosophers, sages, and legislators, and successions of years of knowledge heaped upon knowledge, and to draw from that knowledge, and that's what they did. Plus being inspired by Almighty God. And the country came about. And there are those out there that want to destroy a great system of freedom. So George Washington, 1732. He also became good friends with the family, my wife's family in Virginia, in her sixth great grandmother. The Washingtons and them were good friends. Lord Robert Baden-Powell, 1857 to 1941. And I want to play his last speech. I'm going to get to that sometime, and because it is touching. It is touching. If I can find it real quick, I'm not going to play it right now. There he is. He was a British officer and founder of the modern scouting movement, and he was born in Paddington, London. Now, he was a soldier, folks. He fought in the Boer War. He knew war. If you read some of his books, and I got plenty of them, you just learn from this man. And he came back to England and looked at the youth, especially the young men, and said, whoa, what's going on here? Now, he had wrote a book while during the war. He started putting it together, scouting for young men, basically to teach them skills, outdoor skills, how to survive, but also duty to God and duty to country. But I want to read this quote from him, among many we're going to get to today. Quote, "The good turn will, you will find that heaven is not the kind of happiness somewhere up in the skies after you are dead, but right here and now in this world in your own home. So guide others to happiness, and you will bring happiness to yourselves, and by doing this, you will be doing what God wants of you. God be with you." What great lessons. What great lessons to learn. We're going to get into some of this today, but I started thinking after Monday's show, and there were several times during the show I referred to what they were doing, where they were taking men's integrity, their freedom, their rights away from them. They were taking that language out of their old bylaws. These organizations out there, the United Nations, the WHO, etc. And I kept saying, they're taking this out because it's in our Constitution. And I said that many times, or what they're doing is not in the United States Constitution. What better way than today? Let's talk about the Declaration of Independence and a little bit about the Constitution. I thought it was only appropriate to help us remember who we are and where we came from and what's trying to be taken away. Now, the preamble to the Constitution. It's simple. It's not long. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That's the difference. Instead of saying of, it is for. Constitution is for the United States of America, not for those that want to destroy it. So there are 6 goals in the preamble. So let's go down those. To form a more perfect union. When the Constitution was written, the states saw themselves as separate nations. The founders wanted the states to work together. Postal system, U.S. coins, and paper money. So they said, we need to create a Congress that has equal representation on the Senate and the House of Representatives based on population. The framers were dissatisfied with the United States under the Articles of Confederation. Under the Articles of Confederation, the federal government really had no authority to do anything. But they felt that what they had was the best they could have up to now. They were striving for something better. The Articles of Confederation had been a grand experiment that had worked well up to a point. But now, less than 10 years into that experiment, cracks were showing. The new United States, under this new Constitution, would be a more perfect, not perfect, but more perfect union. And by Jove, it worked. Goal number 2, to establish justice. The nation needed a uniform system to settle legal disputes, make laws, and set up courts that are fair. Thereby, the federal court system and the jury system. Injustice, unfairness of laws, and in trade was of great concern to the people of 1787. People looked forward to a nation with a level playing field where courts were established with uniformity and where trade within and outside the borders of the country would be fair and unmolested. Today, we enjoy a system of justice that is one of the fairest in the world. It has not always been so. Only through great struggle can we now say every citizen has the opportunity for a fair trial and for equal treatment, and even today there still exists discrimination. But we still strive for the justice that the framers wrote about. Now, you say, Richard, the justice system isn't fair today. And I agree. The system itself is still fair. How it is being carried out by men is what's unfair. There's a distinction there. Just like in Washington, D.C., the Constitution is still there. This Constitution is still the law of the land. But those in Washington have decided to go beyond the Constitution, to ignore the Constitution. All right, goal number 3, domestic tranquility. The national government has the power to keep peace and order inside America, and that includes protecting our borders. So they needed to raise money to keep peace and maintain order. So taxes can be used to do this. One of the events that caused the Constitution to be held was a revolt, or for the convention to be held, was a revolt of Massachusetts farmers known as Shays' Rebellion. The taking up of arms by war veterans revolting against the state government was a shock to the system. The keeping of the peace was on everyone's mind, and the maintenance of tranquility at home was a prime concern. The framers hoped that the new powers given the federal government would prevent any such rebellions in the future. Well, sadly, it hasn't. It didn't prevent the Civil War. It did not prevent what was done to the Native Americans. It did not prevent the Black Panthers and other organizations from rebelling and fighting against. It hasn't stopped the BLM movement, Black Lives Matters, hasn't stopped Antifa. And that goes back to the justice system. Goal number 4, provide for the common defense. Protect the United States from foreign attack. That's what's happening at the southern border. The United States government has the power to raise armies and navies, and they've done that. But they also have a responsibility to maintain them at a strength that will maintain peace. Peace through strength. We don't have that today. The new nation was fearful of attack from all sides, and no one state was really capable of fending off an attack from land or sea by itself. With a wary eye on Britain and Spain, and ever watchful for Indian attack, no one of the United States could go it alone. They needed each other to survive in the harsh world of international politics of the 18th century. Just a little insight here, folks. Goal number 5, and this is the one that has been misconstrued greatly over the years, to promote the general welfare. The national government has the power to promote the well-being of its citizens. Promote, not pay, not support, not be their only support, but to promote. They set up a system of birth certificates, marriage licenses, clean air, better roads, education, and a lot of this is being perverted or misused at this time. This and the next part of the preamble are the culmination of everything that came before it. The whole point of having tranquility, justice, and defense, and the general welfare, to allow every state and every citizen of those states to benefit from what the government could provide as far as an opportunity to have a personal progression. The framers looked forward to the expansion of land holdings, industry, and investment, and they knew that a strong national government would be the beginning of that. This Constitution, this founding of America, unleashed the human spirit of freedom to go invest, to go develop, to be your best. And it worked extremely well. Secure the blessings of liberty. The framers remembered all the patriots that died fighting for freedom. The government's job is to protect freedom for all citizens. Let me repeat that again. The government's job, their sole responsibility, is to protect freedom for all citizens, not sell it away. Everyone has to answer to the Constitution and Bill of Rights. Yes, everyone. We look at the Bill of Rights, the 10 amendments that were attached to the original Constitution and other amendments that have come about. Prevent a tyrant from running the country by impeaching the president. Tyranny is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form in the United States of America. Hand in hand with the general welfare, the framers looked forward to the blessings of liberty, something they had all fought hard for just a decade before. They were very concerned that they were creating a nation that would resemble something of a paradise for liberty as opposed to the tyranny of a monarchy, where citizens could look forward to being free as opposed to looking out for the interest of a king. And more than for themselves, they wanted to be sure that the future generations of America would enjoy the same. Those are the 6 goals of the Constitution. Our federal Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It is the written instrument embodying the fundamental organic laws and principles governing the American nation. And it has the following essential characteristics. The Constitution was ordained and established by the people, not by the states, not by a select group of autocrats who seized power, not by any outside government power. The whole philosophy of constitutional government, or a constitutional republic, is that the all-sovereign power rests with the body of the people, and that by a free exercise of their agency, they elect to delegate certain powers and functions to the government bodies set up by them, the people. You get this? Constitutional government is that all sovereign power rests with the body of the people, not with the president, the courts, the judiciary, the legislature. It is in the power. You cannot arbitrarily give our sovereignty away or take it from us. And that is what Joe Biden, he and his gang, are doing with the WHO and with Mexico and Canada. It is a written document, not an accumulation of traditions, customs, or interpretations. It is capable of specific interpretation and encourages a course of stability and uniformity of action where government affairs are concerned. Now, where's that stability and uniformity of action that we're supposed to see in our government right now? Do you see it? The uniformity of action I see right now is to sell America down the road. It is a framework of government, or a framework of government is established by it. Powers are divided between legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government, thus creating an ideal system, not a perfect, but an ideal system of checks and balances where the possible exercise of autocratic powers is concerned. So when you have a president who wants to go outside the Constitution, enter into negotiations, and sign away the sovereignty of the United States, the judicial and the legislative branch are to stop him. He's being a tyrant. But have you seen anybody in the legislative or judicial branches step up and talk about what's going on? No. I've seen a few people. Frank Gaffney's one of them. He did a podcast yesterday on this thing with the WHO and sovereignty and a couple of other minor things. This needs to catch fire that Washington is trying to give away America. In the Constitution are listed the specific powers and authorities delegated to the government and to the particular branches of the same. The government has no rights. It has duties. Let me repeat that. The government has no rights. It has duties only. Let that sink in. It is ordained to serve the people, not control the people. The Constitution contains the written instructions of the sovereign people to their chosen servants. That's right. They are our servants. They work for we the people. It is the circuit by which the people transmit part of their power to their government. And it is being violated over and over and for multiple years. Express provisions is made in the Constitution for the preservation of the natural rights of man. By specifically delegating to the national government the things it can do and not do, by pointedly reserving to the people all rights and the performance of all acts not delegated. Let me repeat that again. By pointedly reserving to the people all rights and the performance of all acts not delegated to the government, and by expressly denying the federal government power to interfere with the people's use of certain named rights, such as freedom of speech. Do you see and understand how far off government has gotten? Now, government has gotten smart in a lot of ways. So they've got some corporate America, some people in corporate America doing their bidding, especially when it comes to free speech. Right? Censorship. All right. Constitution is the means are, of course, provided for the Constitution's own change and amendment. Amendments can be added two ways. Congress, by 2/3 vote, can pass an amendment. Then it goes to the states, and 2/3 of the states have to approve the amendment. Or the states, 2/3 of the states, can call for a convention of states, not a constitutional convention, as it's being labeled. It is not to rewrite the Constitution. It is a convention of states, correct or better some things that's happening in government, i.e., term limits, balanced budget, it's called Article 5. And it's been used a few times. Convention of States has never happened. It's getting close. It's getting close. In the providences of the Almighty, the Constitution of the United States was established to serve an even greater purpose than that of setting up a stable government under which freedom would prevail. It was designed to do far more than guarantee the preservation of natural and inalienable rights to the American people. America was to be a land of liberty upon which no kings should rule. The nation to possess it was to be free from bondage and from captivity and from other nations as long as the hearts of the people turned to their God. Free from bondage and captivity. Well, Biden and his gang are trying to put us under bondage to the globalist. The Constitution of the United States is a glorious standard. It is founded in the wisdom of God. It is a heavenly banner. It is to all those who are privileged with the sweets of liberty, like the cooling shades and refreshing waters of a great rock in a thirsty and weary land. It is like a great tree that under whose branches men from every clime can be shielded from the burning rays of the sun. We say that God is true, that the Constitution of the United States is true, that the Bible is true. The Constitution is still under the guidance and protection of Almighty God. Your Bible and your Constitution should be right there next to each other. All right, let's do a few quotes before we go to the next. George Washington, if the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silence we may be led like sheep to the slaughter. You've heard that quote over and over, haven't you? It is far better to be alone than to be in bad company. Folks, that has helped me in my life. That quote there, be alone than in bad company. I walked away from some really big monetary gain deals because I figured out that's bad company. And I walked away and I was better for it because some of those people actually ended up in jail. He further states, George Washington, truth will ultimately prevail where there is pains to bring it to light. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I guess we're going through some pains right now to bring the truth out, to bring it to light of what this government is trying to do to America, and that is destroy it. It takes pains. The founding fathers, the colonists, went through pains. They went through a revolution to bring about freedom and liberty and prosperity. And we have those in America, even outside of the government, that have been indoctrinated to think that's a good thing. That, oh, we're going to help a whole lot more people if we just give away capitalism. George Washington also said, a primary object should be with the education of our youth in the science of government. In a republic, what species of knowledge can be equally important? And what duty more pressing than communicating it to those who are to be the future guardians of the liberties of the country. Yes, the liberties of the country. Oh, so much going on. So much going on. All right, where's my page here? Alrighty. I'm getting my pages mixed up. Not on purpose, folks. I promise you, not on purpose. So how are, we're a month away to springtime now. A month away. That's it. March 20th is springtime. Yeah, this is the 22nd. So 28 days. All right. Actually, 26 days. 27 days. All right. Get your calendar out and count. Baden-Powell. O God, help me to win, but in thy wisdom, if thou willest me not to win, then, O God, make me a good loser. Now, some people say, nah, what do you mean a good loser? If you lose something, if something didn't work out, if you didn't reach your goal, you learn from it. That's what I think of being a good loser is. There is no teaching to compare with example. No teaching to compare with an example. The good turn will educate the boy out of the groove of selfishness. Serving others, folks. That's what we learned in scouting. The Declaration of Independence. Now, why did you do the Constitution before the Declaration? Oh, there's, you'll see, although it did come first. The Declaration of Independence is generally regarded as one of the most famous documents in the history of the world. On June 10, 1776, the Continental Congress appointed a committee consisting of Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Roger Sherman, and Robert R. Livingston to draft the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson wrote out a rough draft of the Declaration, which was carefully revised by the committee and then presented to Congress for adoption. After some further insight revisions by that body, it was adopted on July 4th, 1776 at Philadelphia. Parchment with the original signatures was deposited with the Department of State when the government was organized in 1789. The original Declaration of Independence was transferred from the Department of State by direction of the late President Warren G. Harding to the Library of Congress in 1952. And at the direction of Congress, it was transferred to the National Archives building in Washington, D.C., where it rests today. And no, there is not a hidden secret treasure map on the back of it. Folks, it was a great movie, National Treasure. I love like the Da Vinci Code and those books by Dan Brown. I love when they take actual history and create a story, a good story. I love that kind of book or movie. Actual history. And it's history you know, or you should know. Declaration of Independence in Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13th United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect for the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Opening paragraph of the Declaration. And then comes what is considered the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Now again, this is taken from John Locke and Cicero and Montesquieu and Aristotle and others, the philosophy of freedom, that government is for the people and it is by the people. I read the quote earlier by George Washington. It says, all these philosophers and sages and legislators, you learn from them. And then, that's the preamble. But this section continues. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends. All right, so let's stop right there because that's a comma after ends. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends. So these ends of the power comes from the people, we the people, that the government's the form of government is becoming tyrannical or even anarchy or even allowing anarchy to take place, which we're seeing. It is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem more likely to affect their safety and happiness. Now let's take a look at this for a minute. It is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. So let's take a look at what this is talking about. Do we completely throw away the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and those that we've elected? Do we just throw them away and start all over? No. What they're referring to here, ladies and gentlemen, is that those in power, those men and women that are corrupting the government, need to be altered or abolished and institute people within the framework that it should be and hold them accountable as well. The continuing, prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. A lot of that comes from fear for not righting that. Now, here's one, this gets quoted a lot. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, the people, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Yes, that's one sentence. Throw off despotism and get government back on the same track. back on the boundaries of the Constitution. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and we could now say the states, or we the people, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of England, and he goes on, and talking about tyranny and so forth. But again, this was written to break away from another country. And it's in the Constitution. We, the people, have the right to control what our government does, and if they become despots or tyrants or Marxists or progressives, we have the right to stop it. And that's why, at a convention of states, I would like to see an amendment with a recall, so that if you don't like what your representative's doing, you hold another vote. Anytime, anywhere, you get a petition signed. And we can do that on the federal level. We can do it state level. Some states have it. I wished our state had it. We could get rid of some really bad people. Now, I'm not going to go through the rest of the grievances they listed concerning what they were saying. You know, they listed grievances against England. Okay, I'm trying to do two things at once here, folks. And, all right, I'm trying to press some buttons. They listed the long abuses that they were tired of. I'm not going to go through those. We could reword them a little, change a couple of words, and it's what's going on in our government to us, we the people, today. But we don't have time to do that today. But this is how the Declaration of Independence ends. It's 3 paragraphs. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Have we done that with our government? State and federal? Hey, stop it! And they don't listen. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Let me repeat that again. A prince or a president whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting, in additions to our British brethren or our Washington, D.C. brethren, we have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They, too, have been deaf to the voice of justice and of sanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. Wherefore, we, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, or now these states, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are United States, and we the people are and of right out to be free and independent states, that they are to be absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, to the United Nations, to the World Health Organization, to the World Economic Forum, and anybody else out there that is part of the globalists, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain and the WHO and everybody else is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that is, as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection and divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. You see how it doesn't take much to understand that today in America, we are under attack by our own government like the colonists were by Great Britain. They want our rights abolished. They want our sovereignty done away with, as individual sovereignty or as a national sovereignty or as a state sovereignty. They want to take away our property. We're not going to let this happen. Oh, so much to talk about. A free people, George Washington here. A free people ought not only to be armed, but disciplined, to which end a uniform and well-digested plan is requisite, and their safety and interest require that they should promote such factories as tend to render them independent of others for essential, particularly military supplies. Again, Washington. In politics, as in philosophy, my tenets are few and as simple. The leading one of which, and indeed that which embraces most others, is to be honest and just, ourselves, and to exact it from others, meddling as little as possible in their affairs where our own are not involved. If this maxim was generally adopted, wars would cease, and our swords would soon be converted into reap hooks, and our harvest would be more peaceful, abundant, and happy. The wisdom of the Founding Fathers. One more from George Washington. Well, a couple more. No, I read that one earlier. Here's this. This is from his farewell address. The alternate domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge, natural to party dissension, which in different ages and countries has perpetuated the most horrid enormities, is itself a frightful despotism. But this leads at length to a more formal and permanent despotism. The orders and miseries which result gradually incline the minds of men to seek security and repose in the absolute power of an individual, and sooner or later the chief of some prevailing faction, more able or more fortunate than his competitors, turns this disposition, pursuit of his own elevation, on the ruins of public liberty. Oh, we could go on. All right. Let me play, before I read these quotes by Lord Baden-Powell. Just a wonderful man. Inspired. The scouting movement was inspired, or it would not have been as successful. That's why it was attacked and is being destroyed. Let me play his final speech.
My dear brother scouts, I am 80 years old. What do you think of that? But I can't say that I feel very much older than some of you. As a boy, I was a sort of Sea Scout, and what I learned then helped me ever afterwards in my life. I became a soldier and did war scouting, and jolly exciting it was. In the army, I learnt service. That is, doing your duty without asking the reason why, and being prepared to face danger or even death, if need be, to carry out your duty. I did a good lot of traveling, which opened my eyes to other countries and other peoples and their ways. I played games and got healthy, and I did exploring and got lots of adventure. Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed my life, and though I had no money, except what I earned by my work, I got lots of pleasure, but after a time I found there was a difference between pleasure and happiness. You get pleasure by amusing yourself, by going to the cinema, or playing football, or eating a good dinner. Well, that's all pleasure. But that feeling of pleasure comes to an end when you've finished your game or your dinner. Happiness is another thing. It is a joy which lasts with you always. And it comes largely, not so much from amusing yourself, as from doing good turns which help other people. 80 years may seem to you a long time, but in all my 80 years, I can't remember a time when I wasn't busy. And so long as you are busy, you can't help being cheerful. So if ever you find yourself without something to do, remember there are always lots of people wanting help, old people, or infirm, or poor people, who would be only too glad of a helping hand. However poor or small you can always find someone worse off than yourself, either ill or old or crippled. If you go and help them and cheer them up, a funny thing happens. You find that by making others happy, you're making yourself all the happier too. I want you to have as long and jolly a life as I've had, and you can get it if you keep yourself healthy and helpful to others. I'll tell you my secret to this. I've always tried to carry out the Scout promise and the Scout law in all that I do. If you do that, you will make a success of your life and will have a very happy time, even if you live to be 80, like me. So now I ask you to repeat to yourself with me the Scout promise. Not like a parrot, but thinking of the meaning of every word as you say it. Now, half salute and whisper after me.
All right. Scout promise. I will do my best. Duty to God, duty to country. Now let's wrap up with two quotes by him. He wrote a paper in 1917. Scouting is nothing less than applied Christianity. Quote, the religion of a man is not the creed he professes, but his life, what he acts upon and knows of life and his duty in it. A bad man who believes in a creed is no more religious than the good man who does not. Baden-Powell quoting Carlyle. Christianity, this is Carlyle and being quoted, Christianity, our broad-minded love practice, does not as yet prevail in this world, unquote. When we ask where religion came into scouting and guiding, Baden-Powell replied, it does not come in at all. It is already there. It is a fundamental factor underlying scouting and guiding. We aim for the practice of Christianity in their everyday life and dealings, and not merely the profession of theology on Sundays. The cooperation of tiny sea insects has brought about the formation of coral islands. No enterprise is too big where there is goodwill and cooperation carrying it out. Every day we are turning away boys anxious to join the movement because we have no men or women to take them in hand. There is a vast reserve of loyal patriotism and Christian spirit lying dormant in our nation today, mainly because it sees no direct opportunity for expressing itself. Here is this joyous brotherhood. Here in this joyous brotherhood, there is a vast opportunity open to all in a happy work that shows the results under your hands, and a work that is worthwhile because it gives every man his chance of service for his fellow men and for God. No man is much good unless he believes in God and obeys his laws. So every scout should have a religion. Religion seems a very simple thing. Love and serve God. Second, love and serve your neighbor. That was in 1908. Different quotes there. 1908 is when he wrote Scouting for Boys, and that's when the scouting movement began in England. It started in the United States in 2010. This is short. Be a player in God's team. Roving to Success, 1922. Christ gave his life to show us that example, namely to be prepared, no matter what it costs to ourselves, to do the right thing for others. That was from Adventuring to Manhood. It is curious to me that men who profess to be Christian often forget and a difficulty to ask themselves a simple question. What would Christ have done under the circumstances? And be guided accordingly. Try it the next time you are in any difficulty or doubt as to how to proceed. Two great men, two great documents that can influence our lives greatly and the lives of those around us and around the world. Let me finish with this. This is from Mother Teresa. We all love her, right? I mean, this talking about dedicated her life to serving others. That was it. Mother Teresa. People are often unreasonable and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are honest, people may cheat you. Be honest anyway. If you find happiness, people may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today may be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. But give your best anyway. Mother Teresa. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Medlock Post radio show for today, February 22nd, 2023. Goodbye. Have a great day. And God bless America.